So how many Bay Area buyers are there in Sacramento? Do you have any stats? I got asked those questions the other day, and I want to give a stab at an answer. And just say from the get-go, look, nobody has absolutely definitive stats here. I want to show you what's out there, but also sort of maybe give some perspective and some ideas that I think we have to consider as we talk about this narrative. So first, are Bay Area buyers making our market surge? I would say they are absolutely here in greater quantities. But I think also it's easy to blame them and to play the blame game and to think that they are absolutely driving this market. And so I just want to say that yes, they're here, yes, they're a force, but the market is hot across the entire country. Let's not lose sight of that. So this comes from Altos Research, and I think it's a fantastic visual to underscore my point. Like here's current listings right now. There's 344,000 in the United States. We should have about twice that. Okay, so it's been a very abnormal market across the whole entire country. And really, when we look at Sacramento region stats and every surrounding county, we're experiencing this same dynamic where inventory has been chopped in half. The market feels about twice as aggressive. It's been just utterly insane out there. And so, are is the Bay Area driving the whole entire country? I'd say probably not. Clearly, Bay Area is migrating to various, pockets around the country. There's no mistaking that, but there's other drivers. Mortgage rates below 3%, anemic, supply, fewer sellers listing their homes during the pandemic. I mean, there's all these factors, all right? But let me share some actual stats because I think this is kind of cool. This comes from LinkedIn. LinkedIn, of all people, they're upping their data game. It's kind of neat. Okay, so January 2021, you can see the top areas where the San Francisco Bay Area is losing LinkedIn members to. And so you can see Seattle and Austin, which are tech hubs. It makes total sense that people from a tech capital and, of California, one of them in San Francisco, that they'd be leaving here. But look at Sacramento. Sacramento's number 3 on the list. Now, this is 3.56 members per 10,000. And so let's keep that in perspective, the numbers here, but fascinating that we are on the list. Now, here's some different data from LinkedIn, and this basically shows the percentage of change in LinkedIn membership, people moving away from larger cities to smaller size cities. And you can kind of see that Sacramento makes the list as number 4, and we have a 5% change. This shows, it says the percentage change in inflow over outflow of workers year over year is from basically April to October 2019 versus April to October 2020. And so right during the pandemic. And so it just shows that, yes, there's a 5% change in LinkedIn membership overall when you consider inflow versus outflow in the Sacramento region. Okay. And so this is only with LinkedIn members, and so it's somewhat limiting, but I think it does show us that, okay, there's something going on here. I don't know of any other data set that's been more definitive than this yet. Okay, but here's from the San Francisco Chronicle, and it shows where people moved from San Francisco who filed a change of address in a new county. So isn't that fascinating? We can look at LinkedIn, change of addresses, and so, and there's strengths and weaknesses to each data set, but you can kind of scroll down and look. Sacramento's number 12 on the list. 465 residents moved to Sacramento. Or Nevada County, 430. Okay, that might sound a little bit surprising to some. Okay, but here's the deal. Sacramento is not number 1 on the list. And so we have to keep that in perspective, that it looks like data, for migration at least, that it's happening in places like Alameda, San Mateo, Marin, Santa Clara, these places where we would normally see Bay Area migration. Okay, now here's the real question. Are the Sacramento numbers more heightened compared to last year? Well, that's what we don't know. And that's, I think, the key for the data. Okay. Here's the last thing I want to show is that, this is a census flows mapper. If you Google census flows mapper, you can play around with this tool, and it shows, you can show outbound migration or inbound migration. It's a really cool tool for any county in the country. Okay. And so here I plugged in San Francisco up here, and you can see San Francisco County in red, and you can see where people moved. Okay, now the downfall of this data set is from 2014 to 2018. Okay, the problem with migration data is that sometimes we're sensing that, okay, there's a trend going on, but we're not going to get stats on that trend, until the trend has already been happening. And so I don't know when they're coming out with new data, but it's time. It's time. I hope it happens soon. But anyway, you can kind of see over this data set historically that people are moving to counties surrounding Sacramento, or San Francisco. So Santa Clara, and Marin a little bit. And so the darker the color, the more they're moving. And in this time period, you had I checked, there were 1,700 people who moved to Sacramento from San Francisco. So first of all, I would say that migration is normal from the Bay Area. We do see people moving to Sacramento anyway. Okay, there's a local source that says that there's about 25,000 people moving annually to the 10 county region around Sacramento. Honestly, I don't know that I have trust or confidence in those stats. I just haven't seen them broken down in a way where I believe that. I used to actually share it in some presentations. I've stopped sharing it because I just don't have as much confidence. And so I'm hoping that that organization can maybe prove that that's what is actually real. Okay. Lastly, I will say that, or second to last, I'll say that, we're seeing, there's normal trends here going on where people tend to move to surrounding counties. The same dynamic happens in Sacramento where the bulk of people who move to Placer and El Dorado are actually from Sacramento County. And so no matter what, I would be surprised if we saw this normal trend bucked. Okay, we have to realize that it's normal to have migration patterns where there's a lot of people moving from Sacramento to Placer and El Dorado. Now, I think that's going to be really heightened in coming years. We've seen extra migration in those places. I think we'll see more migration from the Bay Area here, but the question becomes, will we see, exponentially more? Are we going to see something that completely bucks the trend? And so far in the data, I don't know that we're seeing that in all that's been presented as of yet. Okay, the last thing is that working from home is a game changer, and if companies continue to allow that, and there can be extra migration. Okay, the real question is, will it be the silver bullet or the trump card to sort of surpass what we've seen normally, though? And it doesn't look like that's happening so far, but then again, we barely have any data. And so let's keep watching. That's my answer slash non-answer. I hope it was somewhat helpful. This is the best we have for right now, though. Okay, hey, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much, guys.